Awesome. Thank you, Sally. So hi, everyone. As Sally mentioned, I am Pascale. I am the Student Recruitment Advisor for New Brunswick. And yeah, this session will cover a little bit of the benefits of having your CPA designation, but mostly the different ways that you can enter the program or earn your CPA designation as a newcomer or an immigrant, and also the pathway to earning your CPA designation given your past education and also your past work experience. If you have questions throughout the presentations, I could encourage you to write them in a chat. I have an eye on it, so I'll be able to answer them as we go along, but I'll also have a Q&A at the end for some of you that want to ask questions. Yeah, yes, thank you for mentioning it. I do speak fast, so I'll do my best to keep it slower so that you can certainly understand what I'm saying. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So the CPA Atlantic School of Business was created in 2014 when the Atlantic and the Bermuda CPA member bodies decided to join force to deliver the CPA national program. So there's only 4 schools in Canada that deliver the program, and we are taking care of all the eastern coast of Canada. We are based in Halifax. However, we do have employees all across the region. I myself is in Moncton. I have a colleague in Newfoundland as well as in Halifax. And we have over 100 instructors across the regions that help you, that are mentoring you throughout your studies. The programs are offered in both French and English, so given your comfort level with those language, you can certainly choose which one would best suit your needs. And I like to mention that we are a not-for-profit entity and a private career college, but most importantly, we are a federally designated learning institutions. And what does that mean is if some of you need to have a study permit to be able to enroll in CPA Atlantic School of Business, we are able to give you the letter that will state how long the program will take, and as well as the reason of your application for a study permit. So that helps you get that. And the first benefit that I like to touch on is the fact that you can work in basically any sector. You can see a bunch of logos on the screen, and all of these organization and enterprise do have CPA personnel or CPA designated people that are working in their organization. So you can see on the screen like KPMG or EY or Grant Thornton, and those are accounting firms that we normally think of when we think CPA designation or chartered professional accountant. However, this is not the only place that you can work with a CPA designation. In fact, it's just one of many. So as you can see, maybe some of you may know like Amazon, or if you're into sports, you may know Toronto Raptors or Montreal Canadiens. Well, all of these do have one thing in common, and is that their VP marketing and finance has his CPA designation. So you would not necessarily think like sports and accounting mixes together, but it is a valuable assets to have in an organization, because the CPA designation not only focuses on the finance and the accounting part of having a business or running a business, but also all that leadership and management part of it as well. So yeah, if we're taking it back a little bit more closer to home, I like to talk about McCain, which is a New Brunswick-owned corporation, or NB Power, which is also a corporation here in New Brunswick. Those two entities, although one is for the government and the other one works independently, they both have CPAs in their staff. Another thing that is to mention about having your CPA designation is that it acts kind of a work passport. And the reason I'm saying this is because once you get your Canadian CPA designation, you are able to move from Canada to another country and start from where you were in your career. So you don't have to start all over again, because Canada has a lot of understanding and exchange between countries. So like, for instance, if you want to do a stop in Canada and work here for 10 years, and then eventually you're like, well, I would like to go to Australia to pursue my career in accounting. Well, it's something that you could certainly do because Canada and Australia have the same recognition of that CPA designation. And the Canadian CPA is one of the most prestigious designation amongst the planet. If I go back on the places that you can work, as I said, CPA designation opens you a lot of doors. The first thing that comes in mind is, of course, the accounting firm, where you can start at an early role with being an auditor and then eventually a senior auditor or a forensic auditor, and making your way up to being a partner, a managing director, or a senior advisor. So that's your typical route you would see with someone pursuing their CPA designation, wanting to go for a full career in accounting firm. However, that's not all of your case, and that's certainly not mine. So there is other places where you can put your CPA designation into practice, and those are the public sector or the not-for-profit, as well as the industry and the entrepreneurship. So early care roles on those particular sectors could look something like being an accounting technician and eventually analyst, but you're making your way up through the ranks. Like if we're taking the public sector, for example, you might be working at Canada Revenue Agency, and then eventually you're becoming a treasurer, and then a controller, and then you're a cabinet minister, and then you end up being the premier of Quebec. And I'm saying that because the actual premier of Quebec, the prime minister, I don't remember his name, but the guy that is running the province basically has his CPA. So it helps him not only with the finance part of it, like being able to better manage the finance of the province, but he also has that leadership part that I talked about a little bit earlier. And kind of the same for the not-for-profit. So you would start like analyst, technician, and eventually maybe volunteering for a not-for-profit or being on the board or an executive director. For the industry and entrepreneur, kind of the same. You would start as an accounting technician, but make your way up the ranks as a controller, a VP technology, VP finance, board director, maybe even an owner if you want to start your own business. I love animals, so I like to give the example of if I want to save all the, I don't know, the deers in New Brunswick, and I want to have a deer sanctuary, well, my CPA would help me not only to be able to start my business and know all the finance side of it and be able to do my own accounting, but I would also gain the leadership skills to be able to better manage that sanctuary. So yeah, that's an example that I like to give. And on that note, I'm going to jump to the last benefit that I won't, nope, I'm like the second last. And so this is probably one that is the most intriguing or the most important for people to know. I would say it's having your CPA designation gives you the opportunity to be paid the amount that you're worth. And so we all know that, you know, for immigrants and newcomers, it might not only be hard to find a job, but find a job that gave you as much recognition as you had in the past. Like I'm thinking about doctors and teachers, but also accountants, right? But in your case, being a CPA designated person will allow you to gain that CPA Canadian designation and eventually gain back as much or even more as you were making prior. So for the Atlantic Canada, we can see an average of $117,000 per year. Now, this is not the entry salary point, but it is an average that every 5 years, CPA Canada surveys all the enterprise and organization that hires CPA people to make sure that we know what the average salary is for a CPA. So that's for the Atlantic Canada region. But if you go to Canada as a whole, it's even higher at $140,000. And if you go back international, you can see US, Bermuda, and international are even closer to the $300,000 and even more. So that's for the salary part of it. Always an interesting slide. I know you guys will want to know that. But personally, the one benefit that pulls my heartstrings the most is this one, the ability to shape your career and give back to your community. And so not only you're able to work in a field that feels good for you, that gives you the recognition that you deserve, you're also able to give back to that same community by being either a treasurer on a board for a nonprofit or having, again, your own organization. So if I'm taking my deer sanctuary again, it's given back to the community in the sense that I'm taking care of the fauna of New Brunswick. And my expertise as a CPA designated person is to be able to better manage that organization. On the other end, if you're volunteering for a not-for-profit, I'm again, taking the example of animals here with the Moncton SPCA, the person that is treasurer on the board has his CPA designation. So that helps SPCA Moncton to better manage their resources. So that's the last benefit that I wanted to touch on. And before I dive into the actual journey of starting and finishing your CPA designation and becoming a full member of CPA New Brunswick, I will share the different pathways for internationally trained accountants. So that's probably, if you're gonna retain one thing of this presentation, I would say this slide and the next would be the most important for you guys, since you are mostly either internationally trained accountant or you have educational background that is not from Canada, right? So there is 3 ways to enter the profession or to earn your CPA designation if you're coming from an internationally recognized institution. So I'm going to start with the green circle. So those are the members that are part of IFAC that has like you're in good standing with your organization that is an IFAC designation, and there is a memorandum of agreement between Canada and those institutions. So in total there is 9, and I'm going to show you on the next slide exactly which one they are. But basically, if you do have your accounting membership and you're in good standing with those institutions, you could have the fastest track to having your CPA designation and actually be a member of CPA New Brunswick, because the agreement that is between Canada and those institutions is that the knowledge that you gain, the studies that you did, is equivalent to what we teach in Canada. So you don't necessarily need to do it again. You can just go straight up to the member bodies and say, hey, I have that designation. Is it possible for me to get my membership? Now, please note that it is case per case. And it does not mean that because you're a member of those 9 that I'm going to show you, you'll automatically gain that membership. It's a case per case, and we still need to analyze your file there. However, this is the fastest track for you guys if you are internationally trained accountant. Now, if I go on the other side here, and I'm talking about the IFAC designation plus a CPA Canada Memorandum of Understanding, this applies to 2 institutions. So the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India and the Institute of Chartered Accountant in Pakistan. There was a memorandum of understanding with ACCA, but it is expired. This is in the hand of CPA Canada, so unfortunately I couldn't answer that questions. However, as soon as I get details on that, I can send them to Sally so that she can help you with that. So yeah, right now there's only 2 memorandum of understanding, which is with Pakistan and India. And those can be granted advanced standing in the CPA pathway. So that means that you might just need to challenge the Core 1, Core 2, Elective 1, and Elective 2 exams, and then do your capstones module to then pass your common final exam and maybe exempt of that 30 months of practical experience. Those are all things that I'm going to go over in a little bit. So that's for memorandum of understanding. Now, if you don't fall in those 2 buckets, there is that middle one that says that if you have an IFAC designation, but there's no understanding whatsoever, you are still eligible to take on that CPA designation journey. But what we'll do is we will ask you to make sure that you're in good standing with your current member body and have us analyze your file, basically do the eligibility request form to place you exactly on the path that you need to complete. So more than likely what happens with those is that you have to do the whole professional education program plus the preparatory courses of business law and taxation, since those are really Canadian relevant, and there might be discrepancies between here and the country that you did your studies in. So that's for internationally trained accountant. So that's the slide that I promised you guys. So I'm just going to stay on it a little bit. So for the Memorandum of Understanding, as I said, it's Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, as well as Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan. And for the agreement, those are all on the screen there. I'm not going to say them all because I might mispronounce some of them, but it can give you an idea here. So if you're following those green buckets, come chat with me and we can see if you can get your membership as soon as possible. Okay, now I'm going to jump into the actual journey to gaining your CPA designation. So the first part of it is what we call the preparatory courses. So the preparatory courses are divided in two categories. So there's the non-core, which are more of like your business basics, and the core courses, which touches more on the accounting process of it. Those 14 courses that I'm going to show you in a little bit, those courses, to be able to start your education with us, you do need to have at least 30 credit hours at a recognized post-secondary institutions. That's the equivalent of a year at post-secondary institutions, or 3 years of relevant work experience. So if you've been working in accounting and you think that the work is relevant enough that you can get exempt from those courses, it's something that we can have a look at as well. And then once you complete your preparatory courses, you jump into what we call the professional education program. So to be able to start the CPA PEP, you need to have a completed university degree. So that's 4 years in a post-secondary institutions, or 8 years of relevant work experience, plus the 14 prerequisites that are also the preparatory courses. So once you completed all, like you checked all those boxes, you're able to start the professional education program, which consists of 6 modules, the common final exam, and the practical experience of 30 months. And that altogether makes the full CPA journey. Sulafa, I see you have a question.
Yes, yeah, I have a question here in the previous slide about the yes, yeah, thank you. The 4 years bachelor degree.
Yes.
So I believe that it needs to be accredited or be evaluated with WES, under WES.
Yes, yeah. You're right. So the way that we make sure that your degree that you completed in either your home country or somewhere else in the world is by doing that equivalency with WES to like make sure that it matches with a Canadian certification. Thank you for that question. It's something that is very important of mentioning. Thank you. Okay. So if we go back to the non-core courses, as I said, these are more business basics. So you see stuff as economics, statistics, introductory to financial accounting. The one thing that I want to mention is that information technology that you see there will be a core course starting April 1st. So that means that it's just the way that the courses is given, it's the modality of the course that are going to change. The content will remain the same. However, it's going to become a core courses. And to be granted exemptions or say that you pass those courses, if you take them on with us, you need to have a 50% passing grade. Those courses never expire. So even if you did a degree back in 2001, 2002, those would still be relevant. The only one that you would need to redo again is business law here, just because the laws in Canada differs from laws in other countries, but they don't expire. So let's say that you start your journey and you're doing your preparatory courses, and for a reason something happens, well, you won't ever lose the progress that you made on those courses. That differs with the core courses, as those have a 10-year expiry. So if you did your degree in 2001, those might need to be retaken because it's been more than 10 years. And the reason why they do expire is because things are changing. The economy is moving and shifting. So we want to make sure that our CPA have the most up-to-date information in those courses. So you do have to have a 60% passing grade to be either granted an exemption or pass the course. And overall, in those 8, soon to be 9 courses, you will need a 65% average. So if you did a little bit less good in performance management, but you rocked it in audit and assurance, well, the balance of it all would needs to be more than 65. And the one thing I will mention here is taxation. Again, it's as business law, so it is geared toward the Canadian law. So that's the reason why you would need to take it on again if need be. And those makes up your 14 preparatory courses. So I talked a little bit about the modality of delivering. So the difference between the non-core and the non-core and the core courses is that the non-core is a self-study format. So that means that you register and you gain access to your material, and it's up to you to make time in your schedule to go over the material before your exam. The whole 6 courses takes about 200 study hours. Now, IT is going to move, so it's going to be a little bit less than that, but it gives you an approximate of how much time you have to invest if you need to do the non-core courses. It's an open enrollment, and there's a 1-year time limit. So that means that from the moment you receive your eligibility request form, you have 1 year to at least start one of those courses and to be still for your enrollment to be valid, if you will. If you're missing that deadline, you'll have to start all over again. For the standard core, the core courses, I mean, there is 2 different modes. So there's the standard and the adapted. So we're moving from the standard core, which was instructor facilitated with weekly webinars and in-class problems, to an adapted learning format, which will utilize smart books and provide real-time feedback from instructors. And it will be more tailored to your content and also your schedule. So it will be like videos, and then if you have questions, you can go and ask a real person for a little bit of help. So those are offered 5 times a year over, it's approximately an 8-week semester. However, it's more like 7 if you take into account that 6 of those weeks are for going over the material and more like in class problems and stuff. And then the 7th, stretching maybe on the 8th weeks, is when you would have your final exam. For the core courses, you can put aside 15 to 20 study hours per week to be able to go over all the material. Okay, and now the last part. That's a huge last part. But for the CPA professional education program, what we're seeing is it is a part-time online program. So it is designed that you are for people that are working full-time. So if you have a job, and we know that in life, you have a lot of things happening, and just your schedule can be pretty busy. So that's why the program is part-time online. There are mandatory workshops, and we will go back to in-person learning for those workshops. However, for now, they are held virtually. And those workshops are mandatory at the beginning of each module so that you're able to, 1, network with the other students that are taking on the class with you, but 2, to make sure that you kind of understand what was going on in the course, and we are better able to prepare you for the next 10 weeks of study. There is multiple start dates, so there's 4 semesters for the professional education program. So you can start in winter, in spring, in summer, and in fall. So basically there's a starting date around the corner for every season. The first part of your professional education program consists of the Core 1 and the Core 2. Those 2 modules are going to dive into financial accounting and reporting, as well as management, accounting, planning, and control. So as you can see, those are really like the meat and juice of accounting. It's where you'll learn all your basics. and make sure that you have a solid base of knowledge to move on to the next portion of it. The electives are the module 3 and 4. Here you can see there is 4 modules that are offered. However, you are only required to choose 2 of them. So if you want to work in an accounting firm, you will need to take assurance and taxation, because that's what they do. They do audit, they do tax, and that's kind of where you will need to get your knowledge. However, if you're someone that are looking maybe to start your own business or work more in the private sector or the not-for-profit, you may want to choose performance management and finance. So this is where you really tailor your CPA designation to what you want to do with your life, where you want to go in your career. So it's kind of fun to be able to choose in that matter. Before I jump into the last 2 modules, I want to say that those first 4 can be offered in the regular path, which is taking 1 class per semester. So you would do core 1 semester 1, core 2 semester 2, then electives, and then electives 1 and 2. So that would be your regular path. However, some of you might want to go faster. You might want to just have your CPA designation as soon as possible. So that is another pathway that we offer. You can take on your core 1 and core 2 in the same semester, and your 2 electives in the same semester. So basically shortening your overall time in half. However, I just want to note that by doing that, you're doubling your study time. So you're going from 15 to 20 hours a week to a full week of study. So it can be somewhere around 40 hours. So that would become a full-time job. If you're on the other end of the spectrum and you have a lot of things going on your plate and you want to just take it a little bit slower, make sure that you understand the material and that you're able to get through those exams, you can take the extended version of the path, which is where you would do 1 module split into 2 semesters. So instead of having 15 to 20 hours a week of study, you would go down to 7 to 10. So it would take a longer time to finish all of those 4 modules. However, it might be a better fit for your life. So those apply to the first 4 modules. However, when we get to the capstones modules, it has to be in a certain order, and it can be in the fast track or in the extended, as it is where you prepare yourself to take on the common final exam. So the capstone one is an integrative modules. So it's a business case. So we're asking businesses from Atlantic regions to write us a business case. They submit that to us, and you're partnered with 4 to 5 students to go over the business case and analyze it and make sure that you give and provide a great solution at the end to the owners of the business or the CEOs. So there's no exam per se, but the presentation of your solution is what is considered as your exam for that modules. The last module is capstone 2, which is where we just go over everything that you've learned from core 1 to the end of capstone 1 to prepare you to take on the common final exam. So there's no exam at that point. The exam is the common one. So now that you've gone through all your preparatory courses, all your professional education courses, you are ready to take on the common final exam. And this consists of 3 days. And the first one, you'll go over the same business case as you did in capstone 1, but just a little deeper. So we'll ask questions on that case, and you'll have 4 hours to answer those. The second day is going to focus on your electives. So if you chose performance management and assurance, you'll be tested on those 2. If you chose finance and taxation, you'll be tested on those 2. We won't test you on an elective that you didn't choose, because it wouldn't be fair, right? And you'll see those electives will follow you throughout the whole professional education program, as well as in your practical experience. And finally, the last day of the common final exam, you are challenged on the knowledge you learned in core 1 and core 2. So all of that consists of the whole professional education program. And the last thing that you need to do is to complete the relevant practical experience. Now, that experience consists of 30 months of progressive experience. So it's experience in the field of accounting that will touch on the 6 competency areas that you can see on the screen right now. Prior experience may count. So if you did work in an accounting field, or if you had a job that you needed to do some of the work that you've learned in your CPA studies, it may count. Up to 12 months prior experience may count upon that 30 months. So you would be left to do 18 months after your common final exam, if that's the case for you. Or the other thing that we see for that is if you are working while you're doing your CPA studies, that experience that you're earning can count towards that 30 months as well. Now, there is 2 routes when it comes to having a job approved for practical experience. So we have what we call the pre-approved route. So those are companies and enterprise and organizations that know that they are hiring a lot of CPA candidates. So instead of going through the process every time they hire someone, they just said, hey, let's do this one time and then we'll get the check and we'll make sure that we still keep that job posting the same, so that every candidate that comes and do that job do touch on the 6 competencies areas. So the reason I'm mentioning it is because we do have on our website a page where those pre-approved companies are listed, and you can go there and click on them and see if they have a job available. So if you're a job seeker, if you're looking for an employment, and this is a great way to start knowing that you want to do your CPA designation and you'll have to do practical experience at a later date. Going with the pre-approved employer gives you that peace of mind that you won't have to be looking for something and scrambling to do your practical experience. Now, the other way that we see is if ever like a family business would, like the father would pass down his family business to his son, and the son needed to do the CPA designation to be able to run the business. Well, the father won't do the pre-approved route because he won't be hiring a lot of CPAs. He will only hire his son. So that would be a one case scenario where we would grant that specific business the okay for practical experience. So if you don't have a work in the pre-approved or a job in the a business that is pre-approved, you can still submit your job resume with all the details of your employment, and we're able to tell if yes or no this qualify as a relevant practical experience. So for the 6 competency area, you can see that at the top of the circle, there is financial reporting and management accounting, and those 2 are core 1 and core 2. So all that you do in your studies comes back into those practical experience, because we want to know if what you acquire as knowledge you're able to put into practice and actually use it, right? And so that's where we kind of see if you're learning a lot of things and you're able to apply them. So the financial reporting and management accounting, you do need to have a depth of understanding. So those are the 2 most important out of the 6. Like I often explain it as a pyramid. So if you take the pyramid and you split it in 3, like the blue would be at the top as most important, the green in the middle, and then the gray at the bottom. So sometimes it can be more visual for some of you. So the financial reporting, management accounting, you really have to anchor in and make sure that you understand those areas. And then the electives that you chose will be your green area. So for instance, here we have strategy and governance and finance. So you will want to have a breadth of understanding in those 2 areas. And then for audit and assurance and taxation, you still need to have some understanding, but not at the extent of the other 2. And again, if you chose the other 2, well, it would depend on your electives. So it's the same here. We would have a breadth of understanding in audit and assurance and taxation versus the previous slide. And I know this is a lot of information thrown at you guys. So what to do now is if you have more questions, I'm going to be here to answer them for a little bit again still. But after the session, you can certainly reach out to your student advisor, which is me. And so you can reach out to me either on the website, or I'll have my my phone number and my email address on the next page as well. And Sally will be able to provide those to you as well. So you can either contact an advisor if you have more questions, or if the session today was like out of your mind and you're all ready to, you don't have any more questions and you're just ready to jump right ahead, you can request an eligibility review. So the link is on the page here. It's cpaatlantic.ca/ERF-form. And this is where you would enter all your information about who you are as a person, your past studies, your past work experience, and if you are a member of an IFAC institution, and then send it my way. And once I receive it, I'm able to tailor your program to suit your needs, basically. So it's gonna, after the eligibility review, what you'll gain is the eligibility report, which will state exactly where you stand in your journey. So if you can start at the professional education program, or if you need to take on some preparatory courses, and all your exemption will be listed on this as well. And that is basically it for the presentation. So again, my contact information are on the screen. I'm just going to leave it here for a bit. And if you guys have any questions, I am here to answer them. Yeah, you're welcome, Danielle.
Yes, thank you so much, Pascale. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? Yeah, I know that it was a lot of information, but if anybody has questions off the top of their head right now, now is the time to ask.
And again, if you guys,
I have just one question to Pascale. If you can, Pascale, speak French.
Oui, absolument.
Ah, c'est bien, c'est très bien.
D'accord.
Donc certainement, on va revenir vers vous. Il y a ma femme qui est très intéressée par se faire agréer par l'ordre. Et puis on va revenir vers vous. Merci beaucoup.
Excellent. Oui, je suis parfaitement bilingue, donc pour ceux qui préfèrent le français, là, aucun problème. Oui.
Merci.
Super. Yeah, email is totally fine if that's the way. Sometimes it's not always easy to think right off the bat of your questions, and you want to put more information in email as well. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, for sure. If you would like to send me the what you said earlier, the document that has all the slides on it, I have a list of everybody that came today of their emails, and I will send the document as well as your information along to everybody that would like it. But yeah, does anybody? Sulafa?
Hi, hello. Yeah, Sulafa again. Actually, I'm a colleague of Sally. I work with her at the MCAF, and I just would like to draw the attention. Of course, all of you, you know that the accountant is a regulated profession in Canada. And we at the MCAF, we provide a microloan in order to overcome these costs of the CPA. If you are interested to pursue the CPA certificate, so we will be happy to serve you in this area of the cost, to cover the cost with a microloan. Yes. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sulafa.
For scholarship, because we are not a post-secondary institution or a college, there is no type of scholarship per se, but as Sulafa mentioned, there is some organization that do provide grants and loans to help folks better access the studies and the program. So yeah, it would be probably Sally has a little bit more information about that. And I know there is, I always forget how they're called. Just give me a second. The Atlantic Immigrant Carrier Loan yeah, Career Loan Fund. So I don't know if that's what Sulafa was referring to, but I know those are also helping.
Yes, this is the same. Yeah.
That's the thing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's what we refer usually to for newcomers and immigrants, and for other people as well. There's not necessarily like federally and provincially funded is basically impossible. It's sad to say, but it's the reality here.
Somebody asked if they need to pay anything for an eligibility review.
Yes, so the cost for the review is $350 plus tax Canadian dollars, so $350 Canadian. I have to say though, there is going to be a price increase in the next few months. CPA Canada has been overseeing all the schools, and there hasn't been an increase in 4 years, so they're like, oh, it's time. So yeah, it's gonna increase 4%, so it's gonna become, I'll do the calculation right now. If we do 350 times 1.04, so you would be looking at $364 plus tax for an international review. The way we say that is if you do have an international education or an international background, that's when we will charge the international fee. However, if you are of international arrival, I guess, or if you're coming from international, but you have studied in New Brunswick or in the Atlantic region, then you will be considered as a domestic applicant because the transcript will be one of the Atlantic region. So yeah, that's kind of the clarification for the ERF. And if it is a domestic evaluation, it's $150.
Perfect. I had seen that somebody had raised their hand, and I can't remember, was it Floor? Did you have any questions, or?
Maybe Collude.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions that may or may not have raised their hand? Or was it answered with somebody else's question?
Well, I have one real quick, and it's about the fees. Well, I have this background in accounting, and I've studied in university at my country. And now I'm studying at NBCC. It's just a short, well, it's a 2-year diploma. So yes. How this could be considered to take, I don't know, for that fee you mentioned before?
Yeah, if you want to have your international education assessed, that's when we will charge the full $350 plus tax. However, if you're like, well, you said you were in accounting, but like for someone who might have studied in like kinesiology or something really not relevant to accounting, we might not add that piece to your evaluation. So you would only have the part that you did in New Brunswick. However, for your case, it would probably be better if you include your international education, just because NBCC don't cover all the 14 prerequisites. So you might have some that you did in your undergrad back in your home country that would count towards those prerequisites and put you further in your path.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any other questions that now that we have Pascale here, she's ready and willing to answer?
I'm always willing and ready to answer. So even if it's not here, guys, as I said, don't hesitate to shoot me an email or even call. If I don't answer, just leave me a voicemail and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But yeah, I'm here to help. So.
Perfect. If there's no other questions, and interrupt me if you do have a question, I just want to thank you so much, Pascale, for joining us today. It was very insightful, very knowledgeable, and